What are we doing to stop American weapons going to Mexico to arm their gangs?
Well, we need to support that on both sides.
Well,
Weapons
what are
coming
you
in and
doing?
out of the
What are you
country.
doing to support it on our side?
We are arresting people who have illegal firearms in our country. We're not sending people back to Mexico with guns. We're throwing them in our jails and
No,
prosecuting them.
you're allowing them to be purchased in the United States and driven across the border. Most of these gangs have completely turn themselves into military organizations because they're using American weapons, American technology, and your argument is that, well, we're not doing anything about them.
No, not my argument. That was the policy of the last 4 years of the Biden administration with open borders. You could come back and forth across our borders. You could buy guns. You could take guns off the street. You could shoot people in our country. You could bring fentanyl into our country. You could bring methamphetamine into our country. You could bring cocaine into our country. That was the previous administration.
No,
not this.
What are you doing to stop the flow of weapons into Mexico?
What we just saw transcended a mere policy discussion. It was a wake-up call for national security. Senator Jack Reed didn't hold back. He criticized Attorney General Pam Bondi for allowing devices akin to machine guns to bypass our legislation. These so-called forced reset triggers can discharge a 30-round magazine in under 4 seconds, essentially turning a gun into a weapon of war masquerading as an accessory. Reed, a veteran with first-hand experience firing automatic weapons, understood the implications. Chaos on American streets. Instead of solutions, Bondi offered deflection, veering into immigration issues and blaming drugs, all the while ignoring how American-made arms are fueling cartels across the border. Reed's probing exposed inconsistencies. If the border is truly secure, why are U.S. Army units still deployed there? Bondi had no substantial answer, and her silence was more telling than words. This debate wasn't solely about one device. It highlighted a DOJ prioritizing politics over public safety.
Madam Attorney General, on May 16th, the Department of Justice announced that it dropped litigation to enforce the law against forced reset triggers. These are devices that can be installed in a few minutes on guns like a AR-15 in order to match the rate of fire of a machine gun. In fact, according to demonstrations on YouTube and elsewhere, you can dispose of an entire 30-round magazine in about 4 seconds, so it is a fully automatic weapon. In the press release announcing the settlement, you are quoted as saying the settlement, quote, will enhance public safety. How does putting more automatic weapons, which have been against the law since the 1930s, enhance public safety?
Thank you for that question, Senator Reed. What that will do, it will enhance public safety by settling the litigation, because it is a guarantee that the manufacturer will not put that in handguns. We settled those cases because it was the right decision under the law. Nothing's comical about this. These devices are materially the same as bump stocks. The Supreme Court said last year that they are not machine guns under federal law. We followed the law. We will continue to follow the law. I'm a career prosecutor. I'm going to do everything in my power to keep Americans safe. What we should be concerned about up here are all the illegal guns flowing into our country by illegal aliens who have been free to walk into our country over the past 4 years. And we've taken thousands of those guns off of the street, including drugs, and including violent criminals.
Excuse me. How can you go ahead and say we're more safe today because they will not put these automatic firing devices and pistols, which have magazines of about maybe 20 rounds at most, or maybe 10, and have a range much less than an automatic weapon? Have you ever fired an automatic weapon?
I have.
Well, you understand then that that's a device that was designed to kill people. It's not a hunting rifle. It's not a target rifle. It's mass fire. And you made a compromise saying, well, don't put them in pistols, but you can go ahead and put them out in automatic weapons.
We followed the law. We will continue to follow the law. You and I clearly disagree on the Second Amendment.
Well, I agree that machine guns are not appropriate in the United States, and since 1930 or so, we've outlawed machine guns, and these semi-automatic weapons that are produced in volume so easily converted to automatic weapons that you're ignoring the reality, frankly.
I'm following the law, Senator.
Well, yes, that's right. By the way, how many American weapons are going into Mexico in a year? What are we doing to stop American weapons going to Mexico to arm their gangs?
Well, we need to support that on both sides.
Well,
Weapons
what are
coming
you
in and
doing?
out of the
What are you
country.
doing to support it on our side?
We are arresting people who have illegal firearms in our country. We're not sending people back to Mexico with guns. We're throwing them in our jails and
No,
prosecuting them.
you're allowing them to be purchased in the United States and driven across the border. Most of these gangs have completely turned themselves into military organizations because they're using American weapons, American technology, and your argument is that, well, we're not doing anything about them.
No, not my argument. That was a policy of the last 4 years of the Biden administration with open borders. You could come back and forth across our borders. You could buy guns. You could take guns off the street. You could shoot people in our country. You could bring fentanyl into our country. You could bring methamphetamine into our country. You could bring cocaine into our country. That was the previous administration.
No.
Not this.
What are you doing to stop the flow of weapons into Mexico?
We are arresting flow of weapons into. Our borders are closed. We are arresting illegal cartels. Sinaloa from Mexico, MS-13 from El Salvador, TDA. We are arresting from Venezuela. ATF has seized over 14,600 guns since Donald Trump has been president. That's a 33% increase from the last administration. And think about that. That's with our borders secure.
Were they coming into?
So they weren't doing anything.
Were they coming into the United States?
Our borders are closed. They're not coming in or out of the United States now across Mexico. We've done a 33% increase in firearm seizures. Think about that. Think about that, Senator, from the last administration. 33% increase. And our borders are closed. So we're getting all these guns off the streets that came into our country. And I'm so proud of the work of the men and women in law enforcement.
I don't think you've done anything to severely interrupt the arming of Mexican gangs, because that's really not what your focus, and I think your focus should be on that. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And can I just add one thing? And
No,
because
excuse
the
me.
borders are closed, the borders are closed, we are stopping the guns from going to Mexico.
Well, let me ask you another question. If the borders are closed, why do we have a division headquarters of the United States Army in Fort Huachuca and military elements across the board when the borders close and Border Patrol can handle it?
As former military, I would think you would know the answer to that, to keep Americans safe.
No, I think it's to promote the president's policies on the border, and the readiness of our forces is suffering as a result. Thank you.
This isn't about politics, nor is it a theoretical policy discussion. A glaring national security oversight masquerading as legal adherence. When Senator Jack Reed sat down opposite Attorney General Pam Bondi, he wasn't looking for media attention. He aimed to uncover a perilous reality. The Department of Justice, meant to safeguard the American populace, is in fact diminishing our safety. As a graduate of West Point and a seasoned veteran familiar with weapons from training, Reed brought forth evidence, personal experience, and one piercing question: how does flooding American streets with machine gun-like firearms enhance our safety? Bondi's response was a mere legal formality, a hollow recitation of laws and regulation jargon. She insisted that adhering to legal standards would bolster public security, but Reed saw through it, as should the rest of America. The device at the crux of this debate isn't some unclear tool. It's a forced reset trigger, a frightening mechanism that enables an AR-15 rifle to discharge a 30-round magazine in under 4 seconds. That's faster than most soldiers can shoot a belt-fed machine gun, simulating automatic fire, the kind of firepower that has been illegal for civilians since the machine gun ban following the violent gang skirmishes of the 1930s. Yet, under Bondi's DOJ, these devices aren't banned outright. They're allowed, with loopholes, intact and legal settlements permitting their presence on our streets, as long as they aren't attached to handguns, as if this caveat makes potential mass shootings any less catastrophic. Reed, well-versed with M16s and M60s, knows firsthand how automatic fire transforms a person into a formidable force. Staring down Bondi, he expressed what millions feel: These aren't hunting tools or sport firearms, they're instruments of mass slaughter. Instead of confronting this truth, Bondi deflected. Suddenly, the conversation shifted away from U.S. companies selling battlefield weapons to civilians, pivoting to issues like drug crime and illegal immigration. However, Reid didn't allow such a deflection. The stark fact that the DOJ ignores is the crossing of American firearms into Mexico, not smuggled Russian or Chinese arms, but legally purchased U.S.-made AR-15 and AK models ending up with cartels. These weapons flood across the border, appearing in videos where cartel armor patrols Mexican roads, showing up at crime scenes with slain journalists, officers, and families. Reid pressed Bondi on halting this weapons flood to the south, met only with defensive, vague responses, statistics and ATF seizure boasts that do little after the damage is done. Instead of aftermath action, Reid pushed for prevention. Still, what he faced was political spin. Reid probed further. If the border is indeed secure as Bondi claims, why does the U.S. Army maintain a division at Fort Huachuca? Why are our forces patrolling the southern frontier? Not just for show, but because policy failures necessitate readiness. Bondi again dodged, reverting to statistics on arrests and drug seizures. Yet Reid's implication was clear. The need for military presence evidences policy failure. What did Americans witness during that hearing? A DOJ complacent on regulating forced reset triggers, enabling machine gun-like fire on U.S. soil, and Attorney General shifting blame to immigrants rather than confronting the harsh truth of domestic weapon manufacturing, an unwillingness to admit American guns fuel cartel violence along our border, and a Homeland Security Secretary turned Attorney General prioritizing optics over public safety against battlefield-grade firepower. Reid branded this stance as perilous, deceitful, and irresponsible. Why does this matter? Because each day these devices remain legal, cartels and criminals discover new gaps to exploit, and America slips further into danger. It matters because the next mass shooting could target children at school, shoppers at malls, or concert audiences. It matters because our southern neighbor is being ripped apart by firearms proudly stamped with "Made in the USA," while leaders sidestep and scapegoat immigrants for the violence. It matters because when American justice forsakes its duty, choosing political narratives over public welfare, citizens are left vulnerable. Senator Reid didn't let Bondi off the hook, nor should we. His was the voice of a soldier understanding the stakes. His inquiries are the ones every citizen, every parent, every educator should echo. Why are weapons resembling machine guns allowed on American streets? Why does the DOJ negotiate instead of outright banning them? Why is the role of American arms in cartel warfare overlooked? Bondi's evasions couldn't mask the truth that Reid's questions laid bare, and reality is paramount. If this exchange opened your eyes to the DOJ's internal workings, don't scroll past. Stay informed. Subscribe, circulate this message, join in revealing the spin and demanding action. Because untold truths give rise to lies as policy, and as Reid emphasized, their cost is measured in lives. American, Mexican, countless innocents caught between loopholes and political rhetoric.